than before, right?
Honestly, I didn't even really look before. So.
That again. Okay, I think we are good to go on our end. So let me just make you full screen there, and then let me check our, yeah, trying to think. I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. Let me find Olivia's phone and make sure that it's running live on Facebook.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jen. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Bye. Well, Jennifer, I'm glad I checked
Yes.
because I found out I cannot be in full screen for that to work.
Uh-oh.
So I have Facebook on here, so I'm gonna. Okay, well, I think we're good. So, all right, with that glitch fixed, I think we're live online everywhere. So, I will really say goodbye now, and I'm gonna go play with
Okay.
kids. All right, see you later, Jen. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Merritt, what are you doing up here? You're mine. What are you doing here? I looked over and I was like, oh, she belongs to me.
Are you Nikia Grimm?
Yes.
I figured you had to be because I don't know where my Nikia is.
That's fair.
I don't either. I'm friends like that. I haven't talked to her forever, but
Oh,
we
yes.
sit together a lot, and now I feel like we would like go play dates and things.
Oh, yeah. What's your name?
Laura.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I really like her a lot.
Oh.
Haven't like in a long time. I think her life is pretty busy, but
Yes, she is quite busy.
Yeah.
I don't see her as much as I would like either.
yeah.
What are you doing?
I know she's talked about you before, so.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, are you ready to go downstairs? Ready to stay home? Yeah. Whenever there's too many people. Yes. What's your name? I'm Laura. Laura, I know too. Where are you from? Actually, no. Okay. Back here. Okay. Yeah, I love it. We're right here. Actually, right back here. Quiet, right? I can just check it out. Okay. Oh. There is traffic. There is. Otherwise, do you come here? Yeah. Oh, I bet they're super happy to have you. Yeah, I'm happy. So, that's here, actually. Crazy bit.
All right. Well, thank you for waiting for us.
Yes.
I think there's one more mom that
Okay.
is trying to get her little daughter settled, and then
Okay.
we'll get started. So, so how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm very good. Busy as usual. I guess that's why we're talking about what we're talking about.
Right.
Anyway, we were driving home and I waved to someone and it was like, where is that going? I don't know. And anyway, one's like, yeah, that's working. And it's like, you're on camera.
You can see people, right?
I can see some. I think like 3 moms, and I see you.
Well, there's only.
But that's okay.
So, yeah,
Oh, sorry.
you're good. There's only 3 sitting here and me.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. I think everyone's back now.
All right. Good.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming. This is Jennifer Diamond, and she lives in Elwood City, Pennsylvania. She lives with her husband, James, and 3 children, Taylor, who's 24, Ben, 21, and Gracie, who's 12. She's currently in her 20th year of homeschooling. Jen loves coffee dates with friends, reading, planning parties and events, and so many other things. Oh, and homeschooling. So she's going to talk to us today about time management, which, as we were talking about before, I guess all of us need. So we are thankful for that. So welcome to Jen.
Well, thank you, Olivia, and thank you all. I'm excited to be here today. And when Olivia first asked me to do this last fall, and she gave me a list of the topics, I was thinking, oh, I can't talk on any of these. I feel like a hypocrite talking about any of them because I do not have it all together. Um, and well, just to get that out of the way, I'm here talking to you to encourage you and hopefully to help you in some way and not be a stumbling block. But yeah, I'm just walking on the same road along with you, and hopefully we can get some good information out there. As Olivia said, I am finishing my 20th year of homeschooling. I've homeschooled kindergarten straight through. I have 2 graduates, so I'm only currently homeschooling 1 child, which I can tell you I am really enjoying. It's quite nice. And just I know that some of the things I'll say today, it'll seem like, oh, this is just so overwhelming. But I just want to encourage you that there is such great joy in seeing your children become godly, hardworking, wonderful adults. I can you see my slides and everything here? I made a little slide presentation since I can't be there, so I thought it would be easier to show you some different things. So just so you have an idea of different people I'm talking about today, this is my family. So that's me with my husband, James. We've been married almost 26 years. Taylor is our oldest, and she's 24. And then the other tall guy is Ben. He's 21. And after many years of tears and praying, we got the little gift of Gracie. So that is our family. I made a little list of many of the jobs that we moms have. Now, this is just some things, but this is not exhaustive, and some of you will have different things to add that maybe I don't have on my list. But we are a school teacher, cook, grocery shopper. We do the laundry. We do the cleaning. Some of us do the ironing, if that's still a thing. We're disciplinarians, referees, counselors, entertainers, nurses, taxi drivers, hostesses, party planners. And then there's the doctor and dentist appointments. There's music lessons, sports activities, church, prayer meeting, ladies' Bible study, personal devotions. And on top of that, we still need to shower. And if, maybe we do our hair and makeup. We have parents. Some of us have grandparents, siblings, friends. We need to exercise. And oh yeah, we have a husband too. So life can be overwhelming. And when you add homeschooling on top of that, it can seem downright impossible. I always like to tell people I have 2 full-time jobs. One is the manager of a household, and the other is homeschooling. It's a sacrifice to homeschool, as I know that you know, but aren't we as Christians called to die to ourselves? Our children are with us for such a short period of time, and they're worth every moment that we invest in them. So how do we do it all? How do we balance our time when everything seems important? Everything's screaming for our attention, it seems. There's a book that I really like by Todd Wilson, and if you can get your hands on it, it's really a fun and funny read. It's called Lies Homeschool Moms Believe. And in it, he says, there is not a homeschool mom alive who can do it all well. No one can teach their kids all they need to know for the rest of their lives, keep a meticulously clean house, fix gourmet healthy meals, meet all the needs of their husbands, have a supermodel body, and be a spiritual giant. Does this sound familiar to all of you? I know it was almost like he was reading my mind whenever he mentions all these things. So later we're going to be talking about, through the talk, some of these lies that homeschool moms do believe and how those lies can play a factor in our time management. Now, if you're at all like me, and I'm thinking that you probably are, there are days when you feel like you're just barely keeping your head above water. You think, what did I get myself into? And I don't know you ladies, and I don't know how many children you have, but I have a small family for homeschool families, not by choice. God chose to give me 3 and said, your quiver is full. So I'm very thankful for what I have. I have a friend who has 12 children and she homeschools, and I don't know how she does it, but that I think God gave me 3 because he knew I could handle 3. There's a little story that I just love. And does this look like your house at all? I know it can look like mine on most days. There's this story of a man who comes home from work, and he gets out of his car and he notices there's toys all over the front yard, the door is wide open. He goes into the house. There's stuff everywhere. The kitchen's a mess. There's dirty dishes. The refrigerator door is hanging open. He looks into the backyard, and his kids are in their pajamas or diapers playing in a mud puddle. And all of a sudden it dawns on him, what happened to my wife? So he runs up the stairs, and he notices there's water running in the bathroom. He goes in the bedroom, and his wife's laying in bed reading a novel. And he's like, honey, what happened? And she goes, we know all those times where you said, what do you do all day? Well, today I didn't do it. So there's so many little things that we moms do that we don't even realize we're doing, and we're making a difference. But they're maybe not the grand things that everybody sees, but you are doing a good job. Did you ever look around at the end of the day and think, what did I do all day? I know I cleaned up the whole kitchen this morning, and tonight it looks like an episode of Hoarders could film here. There was a time with schooling. I remember Ben said to James, hey, Dad, ask me what's 4 times 6? I said, okay, Ben, what's 4 times 6? And Ben's like, and I'm just like, oh, what do I do? There's the time that my ninth grader, I asked if they finished. This child will remain nameless so as not to, make the guilty party feel bad. I asked this ninth grader, did you finish everything on your schedule? And they asked, what schedule? And I'm like, the one that you've had since 4th grade. I mean, how can this be hard? There's going to be days like that. There's going to be days where your kids eat Doritos and leftover birthday cake for breakfast. There's times, and I don't know if it's happening to you out in Iowa, but your phone's ringing off the hook, urging you to deal with your expiring car warranties. The dog's barking at the mailman while you're trying to write a check for that overdue bill, and then you're thinking, where did I leave my coffee? But iced coffee's good too. So we all have our own stories to tell. Today I want to lead you through some steps to help you manage your life while you're homeschooling. First, you need to focus on your priorities. Now, I listed some priorities here on the screen, and I'm going to go through them individually. So, of course, the first one has to be the condition of your soul. That is your number one priority. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 22:37-38 says, and he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. Our responsibilities are screaming for our attention, and these responsibilities are real and they are urgent, but sometimes we fall prey to the tyranny of the urgent. But did you ever notice that your souls don't scream out for our attention? How easy it is to leave behind our first love, our relationship with Jesus, and all the chaos and the commotion of our life. When we neglect this precious time with him, things start to happen. Doubts creep in, fears, anger. Our prayers become hindered. Our faith becomes weakened. We start complaining. We snap at those that we're closest with. And all these little things should be red flags, either little red flags or big red flags that pop up and should warn us that, okay, attention needs to be put into this area of our lives. When we neglect our souls, they starve. And just like we feed our families every day, or else we have to feed our souls. If you're too busy for Jesus, you're too busy. There's a story I like to tell, and we moms, we can brag on our children, but this is very true what happens in my house. Since Taylor, my oldest, was a teenager, she has made devotions such an integral part of her life. And there will be times when you would walk past her bedroom and you would look in and she's sitting on her bed or on the floor with her journals and her Bible, or she'd be praying. And even now, as a 24-year-old, every morning I look in her room, she's sitting on the floor praying. And at night, we have to knock on the bathroom door. She doesn't want to wake her little sister because they're sharing a room right now. And she'll be sitting in the bathroom on the little stool that's in there, and she's writing out her journal for her devotions for the day. And it's just such a testimony to me. And I'm thinking I need to be more like her. And I think this is going to just be a great, huge benefit in her life. I'm convicted that when I can easily spend an hour scrolling through Facebook, looking up recipes and ideas, and I struggle to just get one chapter of the Bible read. There's the story of Mary and Martha in the Bible, and I know that you probably know it, but I wanted to share it with you again, that Jesus goes to visit Mary and Martha, and Martha's busy, and she's like many of us are. We're getting ready for company, and we're tidying up. We're probably getting food ready. We're getting all these things ready to be a good hostess. And where's Mary? She's sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to him. And Martha, I think she probably gets a little upset about this, because she asks him, Lord, don't you realize I've done all this work, and why don't you make my sister help me? And he says in Luke chapter 10, 41 through 42, but the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. I read this and I think, I'm Martha. I am so Martha. I want to be Mary. Now, we don't just give up and not do anything, but we should never make an activity the center of our lives, even if it's a good activity. Now, relationships take time, and to get to know someone, you have to spend time with them. And this is a two-way street. God talks to us through his word, and we talk to him through prayer. Martin Luther once said, if I'm going to have a busy day, I spend 1 hour with the Lord. If I'm going to have a very busy day, I spend 2 hours with the Lord. Now, I know that you're thinking, well, that's just not going to happen. I do not have that kind of time. But there's no really set specific time. So I covered some of the what that we need to have this time with the Lord. How much time? There's really no set time. You just make sure that you meet with him daily. The when. There's many places in the Bible that speak of meeting with God in the morning. And that is a great way to start the day before your feet even hit the floor. When my kids were young, it didn't matter how early I tried to get up. It's like they could sense it. Oh, mom's awake. I need her. And so since that time, I've actually switched, and I read my Bible at night because it's quiet. There's no one needing me. There's nobody asking me questions, and I can just focus. Now, for prayer, there's different times I pray. I really don't say, okay, this is my prayer time. It looks different. There's sometimes I pray first thing in the morning. Sometimes I pray when I walk. Other times I pray when I'm washing dishes, and I pray if I'm driving alone in the car. That's just a great time to pray. Next is where. Find a quiet place. I love the story of Susanna Wesley when she had many children and she needed time with the Lord. She would just sit down and put her apron up over her head, and her children knew that was her time with the Lord. If children interrupt, and they will, let them know that this is your special time with the Lord. Now, it's not always going to work, but it's a good rule to try to follow. Now, the how. We need to read and meditate on God's word. It helps me if I pick out a verse from what I'm reading and just try to focus on that one verse, if it's something that maybe can help me or something that I can do for someone else. I also enjoy praying through the scripture that I'm reading, asking God to help me apply these truths to my life, because after all, we're supposed to not just be hearers of the word, but doers as well. I like to pray through the Psalms. I don't always do this. It's just different seasons of my life. I would pray through the Psalms, and that has been a great blessing. Memorizing scripture is something else that we can do. Gracie right now is working on memorizing the book of James. And so I said, oh, I'm going to try this too. Well, I can tell you that my little 49-year-old brain's having a little more trouble than her 12-year-old brain memorizing. She's much farther ahead. I'm trying. I just don't seem to be as successful, but I think I've gotten one chapter down. It's been helpful to me to write verses on note cards. And then if I need to, I can take them with me or just read them throughout the day. Find a devotion book that works for you. If you like to journal, that's not something that I've ever been very successful with, but if it works for you, that's great. Have a prayer list. And also, I know Brian has come up with different reading through the Bible handy tips, and maybe you could ask him if you'd like one of those. So overall, I just want you to know that the condition of your soul does affect every area of your life, so we have to tend it well. Now, along with that, and I'm not saying that this is second in any way, but along with taking care of our souls, we need to take care of our physical bodies. Now, this has been a real struggle for me. We need rest. We need to eat right. We need to exercise. And I know that for many years, I really neglected these areas. I gained weight. I didn't get enough sleep. I still don't get enough sleep. Probably none of us do, right? And I really suffered for this. Now, I've always tried to cook balanced meals, but I love food. So it was a struggle for me. I also have a thyroid condition, which does not help matters at all. And I noticed that my blood pressure was going up, and I did not want to take medicine for it. So during quarantine last year, I just decided I had had enough. So I decided that I needed to make my health more of a priority because I didn't want to take medicine. I already take medicine for my thyroid. I didn't want to take another pill. So I decided, all right, time to get busy. So some helpful tools. Let me switch here, my physical health. So rest, eat right, and exercise. Some helpful things that I have found are something called MyFitnessPal, and that has helped me track my calories. And also I use Google Fit as the step app. So basically I'm celebrating because on March 13th, I don't have that much longer to go, I will be celebrating because on that day I will have walked every single day for an entire year. Now, let me tell you, I'm one that I like to sit and read. I like to snuggle with my kids, do those kinds. I am not an exercise fanatic at all, but I don't know what came over me. It had to be the Lord because he made me have self-control, and I have walked every single day, and I try to walk 3 miles. So I calculated how far it is from my house to where you guys are. And at this point, I could have walked to you and back. So that's pretty exciting. And the way your state is opened up, I think I might want to be there because Pennsylvania isn't all that great. So to date, I've walked over 1,100 miles. I had to get a new pair of tennis shoes, which was kind of exciting. And my blood pressure is great now, and I met my weight goal back in November. I lost over 30 pounds. So these are things that are not easy. It was not easy for me, but I know that the Lord was just guiding me through it, and I needed to get my body back in order, especially since I'm getting a little older. I didn't want to be not able to do things as I got older. So getting plenty of rest and exercise also helps you to avoid depression, which can creep in, fatigue, and it can boost our immune system. And after all, our body is the temple of the Lord, so we need to be good stewards of it. Okay, so moving on. Our second priority then is our family. My pastor likes to talk about spheres in our lives, and the center circle is our relationship with God. And the next circle out is our relationship then with our family, and I would put husband first in that. So once we have our souls in order, our second priority is our family. So I always like to think of my family as my own little mission field, and that God has given specifically to me, so I need to tend it well. As we talk about our husbands, the first thing, I know marriage is hard. But why do we feel that our marriages can be placed on the back burner just because there's so many other things vying for our attention? Does our husband only get what's left over with us at the end of the day? He shouldn't be in last place. Our marriages don't need to suffer because we homeschool, so we need to remember that. So first of all, make time to meaningfully connect with your husband. My husband has a job where he's able to he travels around a lot during the day. He's home every day, but he travels around during the day, and he's able to call and check in. So I know at 9 a.m. every morning, he's going to call and check in and see how things are going. If you have that opportunity, that's a great time, even just to check in and say hi. Another thing I try to do, it doesn't always happen, but is to acknowledge him when he gets home. So making sure we say hi, we hug, we kiss, whatever, just to make that meaningful connection. Ask him about his day, pray together, talk with him, and don't just talk about the kids. I know that's hard. Second is your husband needs respect and encouragement, and this is a biblical principle. Our husbands need our respect. They need to know that we are thankful for them and the work that they do to help us to be able to do what we do. The third step is physical intimacy, and I know that when you have young children and you're homeschooling and there's all these different things, I remember times where, you're nursing a baby and you have your toddler hanging off you all the time, and you're just like, oh, I don't want anybody else touching me right now. And so physical intimacy can just you just think, I can't even believe you're thinking of that right now. But it's so important. And we need to remember that we have a wonderful husband and we fell in love with them, and we need to spend that time with them. 4, this can get a little harder to do, especially if you don't have someone to watch your children, but date nights or getaways, these will strengthen your relationship. It gives you needed rest and time alone with your husband. It helps you to remember why you fell in love. Just this week, my husband had to be in Morgantown, West Virginia for work. So I went with him. We went on Tuesday and we came back Wednesday, and it was just so nice to be able to just be just he and I. Number 5 is laugh together. Now, I have a husband who I think he's hysterical. He makes me laugh all the time. And it's such a blessing to me because he says the funniest things. So laughing together, it brings great joy. And number 6, have each other's backs. Your husband needs to know, and you need to know about your husband, that you're not going to put him down. You're not going to make fun or talk about him behind his back. We need to be lifting each other up and encouraging one another. And that's so important for your relationship, to have his back. During quarantine, James and I started, when I was walking, every once in a while, he would say, hey, I think I'll walk with you. And that has been a great time to connect, because we can talk about what's going on. And a lot of times in the beginning, it was just about quarantine itself or the pandemic. And then it became different things going on in our families, and we can talk about each of the kids or with our extended family, our church, whatever's going on. Now, here's one of those lies I told you about. And one of them is, you look around and think everyone's marriages are better than yours. Well, guess what? They're probably thinking the same thing about you. Everybody struggles in their marriage, and we just need to make it a priority. All right, the next circle within our little sphere is our children. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail here, just because this is going to be sprinkled out through the rest of our talk, especially about homeschooling. But number 1, our children do not belong to us. They are given to us as a gift, but they belong to the Lord, and we need to be stewards over them. So don't let them become an idol. I know how easy that can be. But we have to remember that God must be first, and our children are just on loan to us for such a short season. I'm learning very quickly how true that is. Number 2, we must lead our children spiritually. This is not an option. This is a command. We must teach them a biblical worldview so that they understand that the Bible speaks to every area of life. We must teach them not only to believe as Christians, but to think as Christians. Under this topic, it's important, I want to just say, and if you don't already do this, institute family worship in your home. We didn't always do this. I'm not quite sure why. I think when we got married, we were just sort of oblivious to things. I don't come from a Christian home. My husband does. He's a pastor's kid. And they did different things growing up. But I think life just got a hold of us, and we didn't do that at first. And so I started reading homeschooling books, and these ladies were talking about family worship. I'm like, what is this family worship they are speaking of? So I thought, I think we need to do this. So I brought it to James. He's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But for a while, it was just me doing Bible during school. And then I thought, I'm really going to start praying about this. So I started praying that James would want to take over, because I thought this needs to come from the father of the house. And don't you know, boy, that prayer really worked. He is the spiritual leader of our home, and he is devoted to doing our family worship every day. And what that looks like it will be different for each family. So I don't need to really tell you what all we do. If you want to know, maybe during the question and answer time, you could ask me. I'd be happy to talk about that. But just so you have that time where, as a family, you're meeting with the Lord every day. Some really great tools that I've used over the years, either during school or during family worship. We used the two books that I think have been really great, both by Star Mead is her name. One is Training Hearts, Teaching Minds, and the other is called The Most Important Thing That You'll Ever Study. Teach them also to develop habits of personal devotions. Third is discipline your children, and I can't stress this enough. This takes time and has huge payoffs. There were days in our home where all I felt like I did all day was spank. Can I say that on here? We did spank. No, I never beat my children, I can tell you that, but I did give them spankings here and there. There were days where all I did was discipline, but isn't that a part of school? I love the saying, little child, little problems, big child, big problems. You don't want a big child with big problems. So deal with those little problems when they're little. Now, we may have to repeat ourselves over and over and over again, but I think, doesn't God do the same thing for me? It's like he's telling me the same things all the time that I'm doing. Number 4 is come alongside your children and know their hearts. One step that's been really important for me is looking my children in the eye when I talk to them. Don't look at your phone. It's so easy to just grab our phone and be like, oh yeah. My kids have a little joke in my house. I'll be working on the computer and they'll ask me something and then they'll walk away and I'm like, wait, what did I just say yes to? So they call it computer mode. Mom's in computer mode, so they think they can get away with asking me for anything. Well, I'm trying to work on that. I like to spend time with my kids. I love my kids, and they're just such a blessing to me. I like to spend time with them together. I like to spend time one-on-one. We have great talks, and I am close with all 3 of my children, and I'm thankful to the Lord every day for those relationships. So spend time with your kids and get to know their hearts. All right, so now that we've covered our most important relationships and how to make them a priority, let's look at household management. Many of these things will apply to how we take care of our homes and our homeschools. And the first thing to know is efficiency is key. So first, we need to learn to be the manager of our house. The first step is prayerfully determine your goals. What is your mission? Where is your family headed? What goals do you want your family and your individual children to have? Make sure your goals are reasonable, or you run the risk of setting yourself up for failure. You can have big goals, you can have little goals, but also you need to realize that some of your goals will change over time. We came up with a homeschool mission statement for our family, and we keep it in the front of our portfolios each year for school. I don't know. I'm thinking that Olivia told me your rules, your state laws are much more lenient than what we have here in Pennsylvania, but we have to keep a portfolio each year. So I put this each year in the front of my children's portfolios just to keep me on track. It helps me to focus and then refocus when I need a reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And the NASB says, where there is no vision, the people are unrestrained. I know what it's like to have unrestrained children at times. Our lives can be chaotic, and when we don't have a vision, it will be more so. I tend to get nothing accomplished, if I don't have some kind of goal or plan in mind. Now, of course, there's going to be times of discouragement, and goals will help us to remain motivated. Now, if you haven't already done so, like I said before, learn to be a manager of your house. And the next step of this, we already went over to prayerfully determine your goals, is to delegate. Oh, this is so important. When your children are old enough, and even as little children, they can do little jobs, you need to be the one to delegate jobs and only do what you cannot give out. It's going to take time, but teaching your children how to do each job and do it well will have huge payoffs. It's easier and faster to do it yourself. I know, because there's times I'm like, oh, I just want to do this myself and get it over with. But you're not doing your children any favors by not giving them these responsibilities. You may need to have chore charts. We would have a chart, and we would rotate it on different schedules. Some people do week by week. We did month to month, so they really knew how to do. They knew how to scrub those toilets by the time that month was done. Get them to the point where you don't have to monitor and oversee their work. Don't feel bad about giving them jobs either. Remember, they're members of the household just like everyone else, and responsibility builds character. And the step 3 is get organized. 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, but all things must be done properly in an orderly manner. If you need a planner, get one that works for you. Don't get one that becomes so detailed that to maintain it, it becomes like a full-time job, unless you like that, that's fine. For me, I like just a small notebook that I can take with me wherever I go. Some families benefit from a centralized family calendar that everybody can see what's going on and when. I want to stress to write things down. So many times like I'll remember that and then I don't remember that. So I like to write everything down. Some people also will use not even just a paper planner, but there's apps you can use on your phone. Make a to-do list. I tend to make a to-do list, and then just to make myself good, I'll write down like shower, and then I scratch it off just to make myself feel like I accomplished something. And then I always lose my to-do list, so then I have to start over from scratch, but that's just me. Getting things in order brings peace. This isn't in the Bible, but it's a truth statement for me. All right, so managing our house. Let's talk about homeschooling here. Number one, you need a plan of action. Now, we've already covered goal setting, so not only setting goals for life goals, but homeschooling goals. If you're new to homeschooling, learn about homeschooling. Read books, magazines, blogs, attend conferences and conventions. Have a homeschool support group. I think it's great that you ladies meet and do this. So do your research on your state laws and on curriculum that you're interested in. Step 2 is plan your year. You may be the type of person who plans everything out meticulously down to the day, or you may have loose plans for an overall view of your year. But either way, have an idea of what you would like to cover. Don't be a slave to your schedule, any schedule, your homeschool schedule, your cleaning schedule, your cooking schedule, but have a framework of what you want to accomplish. Step 3 is plan your week. Know what lessons you'll be teaching ahead of time, and then gather your supplies, make any copies, go to the library if you're going to be using books, because nothing can ruin your day more than, oh, where is that thing? And you can't find what you need. Number 4, know what to teach when. Now, you're never going to be able to teach all the things that your children need to know before they leave your home. So remind yourself of your goals and teach to that end. What is most important to me? I heard a statement once, and I'll say this loosely, but it said something like, is your goal to get your children to Harvard or to heaven? Now, they can have both, and that's okay. But if your academics are crowding out your character training or your discipline and discipling of your children to know and love the Lord, then something must change. So, reminding yourself of your goals. When your kids are young, the 3 R's are the most important. You need to teach them to read, to write, and to do their math. Now, that's hard for me to say because my master's degree is in science education, so I love teaching science. I think it's so much fun, and there's so much you can teach a child through a fun science experiment. And I've also really developed a love for teaching history through homeschooling. I hated history growing up, but I think they were just doing it wrong in the public school. So I'm just really loving teaching all about history. But these things are not vital when your children are young. They're just fun, and they can be a great benefit. But if you don't get to them, it's really okay. Now, some subjects you will need to teach daily. Others, maybe like history, science, you might teach 2 days a week. Maybe you teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some families I know teach science in the fall and history in the spring. That's completely up to you how you want to plan that out. Step 5 is have a schedule that works for you. You don't need to follow the local school district's calendar schedule. If dad has a day off and you want to take a day off, feel free to do that. You can homeschool in the summer and take other breaks during the year. It really doesn't matter, just so you are accomplishing your goals. Let me see here. What else? Oh, also, you don't have to teach like everyone else. If Susie, your friend, loves teaching these elaborate unit studies and you teach from textbooks and worksheets, that's okay. Don't compare yourself to others. This is so important because comparison is the thief of joy. It can just steal your joy right out of you. Step 6, teach subjects jointly when possible. Those history and science and Bible topics that you cover, those can be across multiple age levels. So math, that's not going to be so easy unless you have children that are really close in age. But these other subjects, you can teach them to all of your children at one time, and maybe just give them different assignments that they can work on. 7, check your children's work. For me, it's best if and I know I'm talking about teaching one child here, so I understand that it's different for everybody. But what works best for me is just when she does her math lesson, I check it and we go over it, either that day or the first thing the next day before we start the new lesson. If you wait till the end of the week or you let it pile up too long, your children may be making a ton of mistakes and you haven't caught it, and then you have to go way back. So it's best to do it as they're working, and then you can catch those mistakes early on. Step 8 is homeschooling is a lifestyle. Don't think of homeschooling as just the time between 8 and 3 where you get your book learning done. Homeschooling is a lifestyle. Anything can count as school. The year we had Gracie, that was a great year. They learned a lot about babies and how to do a lot of different jobs because mom couldn't do everything. Around here, I don't know if it's the same there, the school districts, when they're allowed to take field trips, some of them will go to local amusement parks and things. So we've gone to Disney World a couple times, and you can better believe I'm counting those days as school days. At Disney World, you can teach your children what not to believe about how the world came to be. Also, there have been times, and this is just one of my favorite little stories. When Taylor was taking biology, we had a glass break in the kitchen, and she stepped on a piece, and her foot was bleeding. And I'm like, "Quick, get the blood typing kit that we bought, so we could do our little lesson on blood typing, even when there's a broken glass." So anything can count as school, and believe me, I work that system. Number 9 is plan for your toddlers. Oh, your best laid plans can be blown to smithereens by those little darlings, can't they? So we have to have a plan for them. And what that looks like is going to be very individualistic. Step 10 is get your kids to the point where they can be independent learners. Don't get too lax, though. If you just say, okay, they know how to do everything, and you let them go, they're kids. They're not going to do it. So you have to keep checking on them, but get them to the point where they know how to read, they know how to write, they know how to research on the computer, and they can do their math, and they're able to learn just about anything. All right, let's move on to cleaning. Is your house as neat and clean as you would like it to be? Well, of course not. I know mine is not. Do you think, though, if you just popped into a friend's house, that it would look like House Beautiful? Here's another lie for you. Everybody's house is cleaner than mine. Now, of course, we can pop into someone's house, and if they have advance notice, they're probably going to try to clean it up. I know I do. I will clean, and then I make the announcement, okay, we're going to keep it like this from now on. And that has never worked for me, not one time. There's a sign that I saw once that I absolutely loved, and it went something like, if you've come to see me, come right in. If you've come to see my house, I'm going to need 2 weeks' notice. Every woman struggles to keep her house clean. We live in our houses, so they're going to get messy and they're going to get dirty. But there's something about clutter. Clutter takes our time, it takes our energy, it takes our peace of mind, and it can take our money. There is a lady I heard once that she was out shopping, and she said she bought new underwear because she did not have time in her schedule to go home and do her laundry. So clutter can take our money. Right now in our house, we're living in more of a state of clutter than I would really like, but I know it's very temporary. When quarantine first started last year, Taylor was already living out of the house, and she had to move back home. So we had to move all of her stuff back in. Now, there were some of the things kept at the house she was living in, but she had to move a lot of her things back home. And she worked as the executive assistant for the president of our denomination seminary. So she had to start working from home. So that was another area. She's also a professional photographer, so we had to set up her photo editing area. Ben works for a Christian sports organization, so he started working from home. And then we just have, regular life going on. And we had homeschooling, so it has become clutter central. And then Taylor is also getting married at the end of April, so we have wedding things everywhere, and gifts have started arriving, so we have boxes with gifts everywhere. So it takes a little bit of struggle for me to remain calm, but I'm trying. But like I said, temporary. So here are some practical tips for cleaning. Have chore charts and job assignments. Assign jobs for each day of the week. Make your cleaning schedule part of your school day. It is learning. It's not book learning, but it's essential learning. I used to stick more strictly to a schedule of like Monday we did laundry and changed sheets. Tuesday we cleaned living room and dining room. Wednesday we did bathrooms. Thursday was bedrooms. Friday was a deeper clean of the kitchen. But when children started getting older and moving out or getting full-time jobs, that has sort of flown out the window. Number 2 is have a master cleaning list. Walk through your house with a notebook and write down on a separate sheet for each room things that are broken or need fixed, things that need tossed or donated, or just need to find a home or a space in your house. I like the little saying, a place for everything and everything in its place. If only I could make that happen. Make a list of all the cleaning jobs that need done in each room. What I like to do in the spring is go through in each room and I write down on a separate sheet of paper everything I could possibly think of to clean in that room, and then I tape it to the wall, and when we have free time, I'm like, all right, everybody pick a job and do it, and then my house gets spring cleaned. Now, our weekly cleaning list is a lot less detailed than that spring cleaning list, trust me. Step 3 is determine what your idea of a clean house is. Now, that doesn't mean you can just give up cleaning altogether. That would be gross. But don't do your cleaning to please others. Just get to a point where you can live with it. 4 is, once again, I stated it already, is delegate. Whatever you can give up, make sure you do that. 5 is set a timer. Around here, I like to set a timer for 10, 15, 20 minutes or longer if needed. And I set that timer and say, all right, clean up everything you can think of to clean. I forgot one on here, and summer is a good time to teach a new skill, whether it's a cleaning job, a cooking job. So summer is a great time for that. And the last step is tackle areas that bother you the most first. Some helpful little things that I've used loosely are the flylady.net. I don't know if you've heard of that. She gives you little jobs to do. And apartmenttherapy.com. And I've signed up for like an email, and each day they would email me a little assignment, and it might be cleaning out a junk drawer, and that's something that just can get done, and it's a short amount of time, but it's something that you can do. Let's talk about meals. I love the little joke booklets also from Todd Wilson, and he just knows homeschooling, so this is one of my favorite little things. I feel like I would get so much more done in my day if I didn't have to cook all the time. It seems like you plan the meals, you buy the food, you carry the food to the car, you carry the food into the house, you put the food away, you cook the food, you clean up the food. There's just always so much to do with food. Now, like I said before, I love food. I really do. But I don't love cooking. I'm a fairly good cook. I mean, I can make good food, but it's just not my passion. And I always like to say that 3 words that a woman likes to hear are not "I love you," it's "out to eat." I love hearing that. So how do we organize this very big part of our lives? Well, first is plan meals. Now, this includes, for me, looking for deals so I can be a good steward with the money that God's given us. I also use coupons. I shop at Aldi and get things that I can't find at a bigger store. If I can't find things at Aldi, I go to a bigger store like Walmart. Our store around here is Giant Eagle and Shop and Save. So I used to plan a month at a time for meals, but that's become too hard since the kids have gotten older. Now I go on a weekly planning. With 4 adults in the house with, full-time jobs and relationships and things like that, it's just easier to plan a week in advance. So, step 2, keep it simple. This can be simple meals or simply just having a few different meals on a rotating schedule. Most husbands and kids are happy with a few different meals anyhow. It's just me. I get bored and want to change it up a little bit. Step 3, you don't have to be a gourmet cook unless that's something you enjoy. Then I say go for it. If you like to make homemade spaghetti sauce, go ahead, but ragu works just as good. Step 4, it's okay to have cereal for supper sometimes, or box mac and cheese, or peanut butter and jelly, or birthday cake. Just kidding, maybe. I wouldn't eat it. I do eat cake for breakfast. If we're going to have a donut or a pancake, I might as well eat cake, right? Step number 5, keep breakfast and lunch simple and have things that the children can get themselves, like cereal, oatmeal, toast, fruit for breakfast. Lunch could be sandwich, chips, veggies. That way, if you need to tend to a baby or make phone calls, throw a load of laundry in, they can get at least started themselves. Step 6, have favorite websites and blogs that you can look to for inspiration for meals. Some people love the once a month cooking. I've never tried that. I can say I don't have a freezer in order to store the things, but it's something to consider. And 7, if all else fails, use paper plates and you don't have a bunch of cleanup. Here's a lie. Everyone fixes better, healthier meals than I do. So I bought into this lie for a long time. For example, Taylor and I used to go to a mother-daughter group that met once a month, and we would take turns hosting and have a meal and things, and we would have a lesson and time for fellowship. Well, my one friend, she had this thing called a whisper mill, and she would grind her own wheat berries and use that flour to make her own homemade bread, and we would eat it hot out of the oven with butter, and it was delicious. Meanwhile, back at the Diamond House, it was white Schwabels or some such nonsense. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm a terrible mother. Well, this same friend also had goats that she would milk and all this. So I never did buy a whisper mill. I did use her goat's milk for a while. That became a joke in my house. I would come home from these meetings and James would say, so what new thing are we going to try this month? Now, part of my struggle was that I believed that what I was doing wasn't good enough and that I didn't measure up. And remember what I said about comparison before? It's the thief of joy. Do what you can do. So here's a few more things. Limit your electronics use, those little time wasters. They can be the biggest help or the biggest hindrance. There's no need to eliminate them altogether, but if they have a grip on you, you will need to make adjustments in that area. Have a set time to check social media and your emails, and set a timer if you must. Step 2, identify your domain, your responsibilities. Are you putting too much on your schedule? Are there things you could and should give up, even if it's for just a season? 3, limit your outside commitments. We don't car school, we homeschool. Now, the car can be a great place to learn. We've listened to audiobooks. When my kids were young, we had Steve Green cassette tapes. Yes, this is dating how old I am. We used cassette tapes, and my children knew those little memory verse songs, and we still sing them to this day. We've practiced scripture memory, we've done times tables, and it's great for those one-on-one talks with your kids. But being in your car all the time shouldn't be the norm. Plan your outside of home times so that you have a grip on them. For me, where I live, there's 3 Walmarts, but they're all at least 20 minutes away, and the same with Aldi. So when I go somewhere, I need to make a plan. Like if I'm going to be out, I want to go to the post office. I want to do this, so that I'm not in the car all the time. 4, don't focus on what you're not doing. It's so easy, and that goes back to comparison. Try to think of what you are accomplishing, not what you're not getting done. Step 5, are you trying to please God or are you trying to please man? The comparison thing again. 6, learn to say no, even to things that may be good. Pray that God will give you discernment in this area, and ask for peace when others don't understand when you have to say no. 7, kids need a bedtime and a wake-up time. Now, for our family, the bedtime is important. We have a bedtime. Gracie right now, her bedtime is 9:30. As far as the wake-up time, we've always been a little more flexible. When they're young, of course, they get up early. When they start getting into the teenage years, they just require more sleep. And I'd rather have my kids be well rested. And being that we homeschool, we can be more flexible. And homeschooling doesn't take as much time as going to school. But there were times where, all right, I think some children are taking advantage of this wake-up time. So we had a little thing that we did in our house. And we only had to do it with Ben. And he wouldn't mind me telling the story because it made him stronger. I said, Ben, you're getting up too late every day, so we're going to try something. For every minute that you come downstairs late, you have to do a push-up. So there were days where Ben did 30 push-ups, and it has helped him. It has benefited him. So I made it something that was actually good for him. 8, the problem of the phone. Don't answer the phone unless you absolutely must answer it. Caller ID is a great thing, but I know for me, if the phone rang, my kids would scatter. They were just gone, and I'd have to like reel them back in. So it's just better to just not answer the phone if you don't have to. And the last step here is have a friend or friends that you can talk to and pray with. We all need encouragement in any stage of life that we're in, and especially when we're homeschooling, we can get so bogged down and so discouraged. So have someone, have a mentor, have another friend that's walking along this journey with you. Iron sharpens iron. All right, so I have some confessions here to make to you. I have used the TV as a babysitter many times, and I am not ashamed of it. I let my daughter quit geometry after 1/2 of a year because she hated it. It was bringing many tears, and I absolutely told her, that's good enough. You're done. So I got to the point where I'm like, yep, that's good. We're done. When I was pregnant with Gracie, of course, I needed naps. Now, guaranteed, my children were 8 and 11 at the time, so they were fine. But I would put a movie in and I would tell them, do not get me unless there's blood, vomit, or fire. And I meant it too. Another confession, I still love McDonald's. I love Lucky Charms and gummy bears and chocolate and Coke, even though I gave up Coke. And I may never grow out of those things, and that's okay. They're not the healthiest, but hey. And the last confession is I still do compare myself to others, and I still feel unworthy. So this is just something that I need to take to the Lord. So none of us are super mom. Many of us feel we're not cut out for homeschooling. We're not organized enough. We're not patient enough. We're not creative enough. These feelings and doubts are real, but God supplies all of our needs. Homeschooling requires faith. If you've been called to homeschool, God will supply what you need in order to train your children in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. It's definitely not easy, and there will be trials along the way, but those trials build endurance, and they work to conform us to the image of His Son. So I hope that your work to manage your time that you'll remember that you're sowing seeds to produce wonderful fruit. Now, I'm sure that you're doing a wonderful job, better than that you even imagine, and I know that God is glorified in what you're doing. So thank you all so much, and I hope this has been a blessing to you today.
So, we will take questions if you guys have any questions. So, let me know if you have any. Well, I think you did just a very thorough job.
I know I was like trying to run through it. I'm like, oh boy, there's so much to go over. I hope I know I probably overwhelmed, but I didn't mean to.
All right, well, I guess if there's no questions, then all right. Well, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Have a great day.
You too. I'll have to see if I can figure out how to get you off here now.
Maybe if I just turn mine off, huh?
Maybe.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
They're saying thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. If you ever have questions, you can just ask Olivia and she can ask me, or you can get a hold of me. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Well, you have a good day and thank you.
You too. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, bye-bye.